records are in the public domain. For more information, volunteer, visit the Divine Dante Alighieri, Turn, Canto 11. Upon the margin of a lofty bank, which great rocks broken in a circle made, we came upon a still more cruel throng. And there, by reason of the horrible excess of stench the deep abyss throws out, we drew ourselves aside behind the cover of a great tomb. Whereupon I saw a writing, which said, Pope Anastasius I hold, whom out of the right way Photinus drew. Slow it behoveth our descent to be, so that the sense be first a little used to the sad blast, and then we shall not heed it. The master thus. And unto him I said, Some compensation find, that the time pass not idly. And he, Thou seest, I think, my son, upon the inside of these rocks are three small circles, from gray to gray, like those which thou hast. They are all full of spirits and elements, but that hereafter the sight alone sufficing. Here, where they are in strength, every malice that is hate, heaven, injury, is the end, and all such end force, fraud, because fraud is man's or displeases God, and so stand close, fraudulent, greater sales. All the first circle violent, but since force may be used against three persons, shroud divided and struggle. God, to ourselves, to our neighbor, I say, on them and things as thou hearest a death by violence, painful wounds, are to our neighbor given, and in his substance arson. Opposite. He who smites unjustly, fraudulently, the first round, fermented law, companies, man may lay liable hands upon himself and his own goods, and therefore in the second round, perforce without avail, and whoever of the world prides himself, gains, and disciplines his property, and where he should jocund be. Violence can be done the deity, in heart denying and blaspheming him, and by disdaining nature and her bounty. And for this reason doth the smallest round seal with its signet Sodom and Cahors, and who, disdaining God, speaks from the heart. Fraud, wherewithal is every conscience stung, a man may practice upon him who trusts, and him who doth no confidence first. This latter mode here dissevers only the bond of love which nature has. Wherefore, within the second circle, also hypocrisy, flattery, and who deals in magic, falsification, theft, silence, panders, paraders, and the like filth. By the other one, forgotten is that which nature makes, and what is after him, from which there is a special fate entered. Hence, in the smallest circle, the point is the universe, upon which dice seek, whoever trades wherever is consumed. And I, my master, clear enough proceeds thy reasoning, and full well distinguishes this tavern and the people who possess it. But Tell me, those within the fat lagoon, whom the wind drives, and whom the rain doth beat, and who encounter with such bitter tongues, wherefore are they inside of the red sea not punished, if God has given them in his wrath? And if he has not, wherefore in such fashion? And unto me he said, Why wanderest so thine intellect from that which it is wont? Or sooth, thy mind, where is it elsewhere looking? Hast thou no recollection of those words with which thy ethics thoroughly discusses the dispositions through that heaven abides not, incontinence and malice and insane bestiality? And how incontinence less God offended, less blame tracks? If thou regardest this conclusion well, and to thy mind recallest who they are that up inside are undergoing penance, clearly wilt thou perceive why from these things they separate, and why thus wrong justice divine their spite sun that healest all distempered vision, thou dost contend and so resolvest, yet doubt exists flesh. Back to there, where thou seest that philosophy, to him who heeds it, noteth naturally one just alone, mind, heart, and if thy physics carefully thou lookest, after not imitation shalt thou find that this your art as far as possible follows, as the disciple doth the master, so that your art is, as it were, God's bread. From these two thou bringest Genesis, beginning, it behooves mankind to gain their life and advance in sense nature herself, and in her follower disdains he, for elsewhere he puts his hope. But follow now, as I would fain go on, for quivering are the fishes on the horizon, and the wane wholly over Caras lies, and far beyond there we descend the crag. Inferno, 12. The place where to descend the bank we came was alpine, and from what was there were of such a kind that every eye shunned, such as that is which in the plank smoke the sun found by instead. From the plain, the cliff is shattered so some path to above, such as the descent of that peak, and on the border, rolling chasm into me creek, stretching as you can see, piteous howl, and when he us beheld, it himself, even one painful rats, sage shouted, Peradventure thou thinkst that here in the bathrooms, world above, death, get thee gone. This one cometh not instructed of thy sister, but he comes in order to behold punishment. As is that bull breaks loose the sea, who cannot walk staggers. The Minotaur held life. He, weary, cried, Run to the passage while he walked. Well, thou shouldst descend. Thus now themselves thoughtful. He said, Thou art thinking, perhaps, upon this road. which is guarded by that brute angle just now I went over. Now will I have the jump. The other time descended nether hell, this precipice had not yet fallen down. Truly, if I well discerned, a little before his coming, the mighty spoil bore off from these furnace. Upon all sides, slopes valley crimson, so that I thought the universal love, by which there are things, the world often converted into chaos, and at that time, this primeval tragedy, both here and elsewhere, made such order. But fix thine eyes below, or draweth near the river of blood, in which boiling is whoever by violence doth injure others. Come on, oh, blind cupidity, that spurs us onward so, and in the eternal so badly sleeps us. Come on, I saw him. Then as one which called flame compass, conformable what my guide had said. And between this baggage, centaurs and files were running, and arrows, as in the world they used to chase flowers. Beholding us descend, each one stood still, and from the squadron 3 detached themselves, bows and arrows advanced, and from afar one cried, "Unto what torment come ye? Down the hillside are we sending. Tell us from here, if not, I draw the bow." As we said, answer will we make cheer up. Hear you there? An evil hour, that will of thine was evermore so hasty. Then touch him, said, this one is Nessus, who perished for the lovely Dejanira, and for himself did vengeance take. And in the midst, who at his breast is gazing, is the great Chiron, who brought up Achilles. That other Pholus is, who was so wrathful. Thousands and thousands go about the moat, shooting with shafts whatever soul emerges out of the blood, more than his crime allots. Near we approached unto those monsters' fleet. Chiron an arrow took, and with the notch backward upon his jaws, he put his beard. After he had uncovered his great mouth, he said to his companions, "Are you aware that he behind, with whatever he touches, thus are not the feet dead?" Thus alone to show necessity and not life. Someone singing hallelujah unto me committed to spirit. But by that virtue which I am my steps along this savage where give us some one thine, and may show us passage, and he may carry this one for 'tis no spirit upon his right breast wow, said to Nessus, turn and do thou and warn aside understand. People I saw the eyebrows, That forehead there, which has the hair so black and the other is blonde, he's desolate. The world by his steps slain. And turned out, he said, "Now he be first to thee, and second I." A little farther on the centaur stopped above a folk, who, far down as the throat seemed from that boiling stream, a shade he showed us on one side alone, saying, "He cleft asunder in God's bosom the heart that still upon the Thames is honoured." Then people saw I who from out of the river lifted their heads, and also all the chest, and many among these I recognized. Thus evermore and more grew shallower that blood, so that the feet alone it covered, and there across the moat our passage was. Even as thou here upon this side beholdest the boiling stream, that aye diminishes, the centaur said, I wish thee to believe that on this other side more and more declines its bed, until it reunites itself, where it behoveth tyranny to groan. Justice divine upon this side is goading that Attila is a scourge on earth, and Pyrrhus and Sextus, and forever milks the tears, which with the boiling conceals in House, who made upon the highways so much pass again. Inferno, not yet as necessary and put ourselves in that mark. Not boiling tree, but the dust branches and not active. Such tangled figures have done, so is for savage wild sinning till there is Hercules, there chase the Trojans from the stroke. Sad announcement. Broad wings, necks and faces, and their great bellies pledged. They reach laments upon the where thou enter, know that thou art in the and shelter thou comest upon the sand. Therefore look well round, and shalt see things that will greet it. Heard on all sides person none held I might make them, whence, utterly bewildered, I stood still. I think he thought that I perhaps might think so many voices issued through those trunks from people who concealed themselves from us. Therefore the master said, if thou break off some little spray from any of those trees, thoughtest thou actually Front cried, why dost thou mangle me? After it had come to the ground, blood it recommenced its cry. Why dost thou rend me? Hast thou no spirit of pity whatsoever? Men once we were. Indeed, thy hand should be pitiful. souls of serpents we had been. Out green brand that other groups, wind is escaped. So from one splinter forth together both words hang. Whereat I let him fall, stood like a man, and he but only in my verses he has seen. Not upon thee had he stretched forth his hand, whereas the thing incredible has caused me to put him to an act which. But tell him thou lovest me, so that by way of some amends thy fame he may refresh the world. And said, so thou my tenants, best not that I will give the discourse. I am the one looking of freshness, and turning to throw so softly, unlocking, that from his secrets most men I withheld. Fidelity I bore, the glorious office so great, I lost thereby my sleep pulses. Courtesan never dwelling season where the sun struggled. Yet and the vice of courts claimed against me all the other minds, and they claimed did so claim Augustus, that my glad honors turned for me. My spirit, disdainful exultation, making by dying escape, disdain, be unjust against myself. I, by the roots unwanted, swear to you that never broke I faith unto my Lord, who was so worthy of honor, and to the world, if one of you return, let him my memory comfort, which is lying still prostrate, the blow since the time when speak, question him, if more, whence I to him, thou again, cannot such therefore he recommenced. So may the man do for thee freely what thy speech implores. Spirit incarnate, again be pleased. Tell us in what way the soul is found and is not taken. Tell us any from such remembrance is free. And live in brevity shall be replied when exasperated soul abandons the body whence it rent itself away. Minos assigns it the seventh. Falls into no part is chosen for it, but where fortune hurls it, there, like a grain of spelt, it germinates. It springs a sapling, a forest tree. The harpies, feeding then upon its fruit, do pain create, but for the pain out. Like others, for the spoils, but not that anyone made them the best, for 'tis not just one. Here we shall drag them along the dismal forest, bonnets shall suspend them, each the horn. Still, masts and branches. And 2, behold, upon our left-hand side, naked and scratched, leaves so furiously of the forest, every fan is broke. Even was influenced. Now, help! Death! Help! The other one, who seemed to lag too much, shouted, "Run! We're not so alert to those legs of thine at Johnstone's and Popo." Then, perchance because of his breath, he proved himself together. Behind them was the forest full of black sheep-mastiffs, ravenous and swift-footed gray hunters, who are chained. On him who had crowded down, set their teeth, and him they lacerated piece by piece. Thereafter bore away. Thereafter, my escort took me by the hand, led me to the bush, and all in vain was weeping, bloody eyes. "Oh, Jacopo," said, "a Saint Andrea, what help can thee of me to make a scream? What blame have I in thy various life?" When near him had the master stayed his steps, he said, "Who wast thou, that through wounds so many art blowing out with blood thy dolorous speech?" And he to us, "O souls that hither come to look upon the shameful massacre that has so rent away from me my leaves, gather them up beneath the dismal bush. I am that city which to the Baptist changed its first patron. Wherefore, he for this forever is our and were it not past far glimpses of them, those citizens will vain cause of my own cause to cherish gathered and came conflict disparted justice clearly manifested these knowledges. Say that they ride the door is porous, scarlet. He said, very close to the stain. The soil was of an arid. Vengeance of God will much and over them see set along supine upon the ground. Some were lying, and some were sitting all drawn up together, and others were about continually. Those who were going round were far the more, and those were less who lay down to their torment, but had their tongues more loosed to lamentation. O'er all the sand waste, with a gradual fall, raining down dilated flakes, fire, as of the smoke, as Alexander whence Thus was the sending whereby the sins developed without repose forever. As the hands now there, shaking away from off Master, thou such as I was living am I dead. If Job should hear it, smitten, seized and on the last day, if he wearied out by turning good vulgar help, even as he did there as the right labor, shot his head. He would not have their life. Then, with such great grace, I never heard him speak. Oh, Hymenaeus, in that is not extinguished thine arrogance. Thou punished art the more. Not any torment, saving thine own, would be unto thy pain. Saying, one of the 7 kings, he thieves and held, seems to hold God, stain, and little seems to Christ. His own spite, for his best fits. Follow me, mind thou do not place yet thy hand, but always close. We came to where there gushes forth from the wood a little rivulet, whose redness makes my hair still stand. As Hurricane springs the brooklet, sinful women care of them, so downward the sand. The bottom of it is the margins inside. Once I see that there passage was. In all the rest which I have shown you, have entered in within the gate, expression. Nothing has been discovered by so noble present. All the as I pray, largesse sits a waste. There is a mountain that once was glad with waters and with bees, which was called Ida. Now 'tis deserted, as a thing worn out. Rhea once chose it for the faithful cradle of her own son, and to conceal him better, whenever he cried, she there had clamors made. A grand old man stands in the mount erect, who holds his shoulders turned towards Damietta, and looks at Rome as if it were his mirror. His head is fashioned of refined gold, and of pure silver are the arms and breast. Then he is brass as far down as all is chosen iron, save that the right foot is a kiln of clay. And more he stands on that each part of gold is by a fair sunny cleft, dripping gathered together firmly that pattern. From rock to rock they fall in this valley, and Toronto sticks, Legetta, then down go along this coast. They form that is shelter. Here is why? Here's standing, thou hast journeyed still left ascending to the bottom. Thou hast not yet with something new appearance, it should not amaze thy face. Master, where go? For of one in all truly thou dost. But the boiling of the bread will sound. Thou shalt see but outside of there souls laid themselves sin repented of has been removed. Then said he, it is time now to abandon. Take heed that thou come after me. Away the margins make that are not burning, and over them all vapors are extinguished. Now bears us so when we came beside the guide, everyone gazed at us, as at evening we are wont to eye each other. So towards us sharpening their brows, thus by someone I was received our garment's hem and cried out, what a marvel! And I stretched that the scorched countenance remembered not his reputation, and bowing down my face unto his own, I made a file. Said Nato, and he made displeased with the Brunetto Latini, backward return and let the trail go on. All my power and if you wish me to sit down, he please, for I please him. Son said, Whoever this bird stops, flies, then appears, hands himself, smiles, and fires. Therefore, these birds will come, and afterwards I will join my family. So is the middle I did to walk. Lost in the valley. Yet completed. I turned my back. This one, returning thither, onward leadeth me along this road. And he to me, if thou thy star do follow, thou canst not fail thee of a glorious port, if well I judged in the life beautiful. And if I had not died so prematurely, seeing heaven thus benignant unto thee, I would have given thee comfort in the work. But that ungrateful and malignant people, which of old time from Fasole descended, and smacks still of the mountain and the granite, will make itself for thy good deeds thy foe. And it is right, for among crabbed sorbs it ill befits the sweet fig to bear fruit. Old rumor in the world proclaims them blind, a people avaricious, envious, and proud. Take heed that of their customs thou do cleanse thee. Thy fortune so much honor doth reserve thee, one party and the other shall be hungry for thee, but far from goat shall be the grass. Their litter let the beasts of the soul make themselves, nor let them touch the plant, nor any still upon their dunghill rise, in which may yet abide consecrated seed those Romans remain there when the nest of such great malice came. Filled by thy candle, not yet for in my mind this touches now my heart, dear and good eternal image, when in the world taught me how a man comes to earth, and how much I am grateful while I live. Sir, what you narrate here, lost with undertext. This much will I have manifest, provided that my conscience do not chide me, for whatsoever religion ready, such and sound is not. Therefore, let fortune turn as it may please her, and control this thing. My master is right, did backward turn his head, then said, he listeneth well. Speaking less on that account, I told him it was there now, and I asked, are his to know? commended unto thee my soul, in which I still live. No. Then he turned round. It seemed to be like those who Verona run family. It seemed to be among them one lives. End of chapter 11. Read by Dennis for the fall 2006.
Please visit LibriVox.org. Recorded by Jennifer Custer, Jefferson City, Missouri. The Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Henry Watson, and Fahrenheit, Chapter 16:20. Now as I heard the reverberation of water falling on the ground, like a button shadows flew together running from out of company in the past, beneath the waves of starving others. Doors got scrambled, and each one cried out, "Stop, thou, for by thy guard for us thou seemest to be some one of our depraved city." Ah, what news I saw upon their lips! Recent unbelievable that the flames burst Unto their cries he stood high to He turned his face towards me, and "Now wait," he said, "to these we should be courteous. And if it were not for the fire that darks the nature of this region, I should say that haste were more becoming to thee than them." As soon as we stood the with us, formed of themselves a wheel, all three of them. As champions stripped and oiled are wont to do, watching for their advantage and their hold, before they come to blows and thrusts between them. Thus wheeling round did every one his visage direct to me, so that in opposite wise his neck and feet continual journey made. And, if the misery of this soft place bring in disdain ourselves and our entreaties, began one, and our aspect black and blistered, let the renown of us thy mind incline, to tell us who thou art, who thus securely thy living feet dost move along through hell. He in whose footprints thou dost see me treading, naked and skinless though he now may go, was of a greater rank than thou dost think. He was the grandson of the good Guadrada. His name was Guido Guerra, and in life much did he with his wisdom and his sword. The other, who close by me treads the sand, Tegaio Aldobrandi is, whose fame above there in the world should welcome be. And I, who with them on the cross am placed, Jacopo Rusticucci was, and truly, my savage wife more than aught else doth harm me. Could I have been protected from the fire? Below I should have thrown myself among them and think the teacher would have suffered it. But as I should have burned and baked myself, my terror overmastered my good will, which made me greedy of embracing them. And I began sorrow and not disdain did your condition fix within me so, that tardily and wholly is stripped off. As soon as this my lord said unto me, words on account of which I thought within me, that people such as you are were approaching. I of your city am, and evermore your labors and your honorable names I with affection have retraced and heard. I leave the gall and go for the sweet fruits promised to me by the voracious leader, but to the center first I needs must plunge. So may the soul for a long while conduct those limbs of thine, did he make answer then, and so may thy renown shine after thee. Valor and courtesy say if they dwell within our city as they used to do, or if they wholly have gone out of it. For Guglielmo Borsier, who is in torment with us of late, and goes there with his comrades, doth greatly mortify us with his words. The new inhabitants and the sudden gains, pride and extravagance have in thee engendered, Florence, so that thou weepst thereat already. In this wise I exclaimed with face uplifted, and the three, taking that for my reply, looked at each other as one looks at truth. If other times so little it doth cost thee, replied they all, to satisfy another, Happy art thou, thus speaking at thy will. Therefore if thou escape from these dark places, and come to re-behold the beauteous stars, when it shall pleasure thee to say, I was. See that thou speak of us unto the people. Then they broke up the wheel, and in their flight it seemed as if their agile legs were wings. Not an amen could possibly be said, so rapidly as they had disappeared, wherefore the master deemed best to depart. I followed him, and little had we gone before the sound of water was so near us that speaking we should hardly have been heard. Even as that stream which holdeth its own course, the first from Monte Veso towards the east, upon the left-hand slope of the Apennine, which is above called Aquacheta, ere it down descendeth into its low bed, and at Forli is vacant in that name, reverberates there above San Benedetto, from Alps by falling at a single leap, where for 1,000 there were room enough. Thus downward from a bank precipitate, we found resounding that dark-tinted water, so that it soon the ear would have offended. I had a cord around me girt, and therewithal I whilom had designed to take the panther with the painted skin. After I this had all found the as my conductor had commanded me, I reached it to him, gathered up, and coiled. Whereat he turned himself to the right side, and at a little distance from the verge, he cast it down into the street. It must needs be some knowledge of the silence of the wind, to the new signal, and the master of his eyes followed himself. How very cautious men should be with those who not alone behold the act, but with their wisdom look into the stars. I said to him, soon they will help us, but I won't. And if I saw it moving, soon reveal itself on thy side. The whereat moved and tried to face and fall forward, and the man should close his lips as far as my reach, because without his help it causes shame. But here I come, my reader, by the notes of this and my provided to do our spirit, so know they not reward a lasting favor, afford that grace and atmosphere, and so I figure when I touch his arm, marvelous into every steadfast heart. Even as he returned to go sometimes to clear an anchor, he took rapid root, or aught else that in the sea was hidden, to endless stretches and broads of his feet. Behold the monster which comes tail, moves the hill and breaks the water mountains, and hold has his back on the hills. Thus I think myself. Beckoning me to the shore, and this is the sodden water. That the image of the sea came up the terrestrial shore and floated back, but on the border of the face was as the face of a dressed man. Its semblance outwardly was so benign, and of a serpent all across the side. 2 paws it had, hairy under the armpits, the back and breast and both the sides it had depicted o'er with nooses and with shields. With colours more, groundwork of broidery, never in cloth did Tartars make, nor Turks, nor were such tissues by Arachne laid. As sometimes wherries lie upon the shore, that part are in the water, part on land, and as among the guzzling Germans there, the beaver plants himself to wage his war, so that vile monster lay upon the border, which is of stone, and shutteth in the sand. His tail was wholly quivering in the void, contorting upwards the envenomed fork, that in the guise of scorpion armed its point. The guide said, Now perforce must turn aside our way a little, even to that beast, malevolent that yonder coucheth him. We therefore on the right side descended, and made 10 steps upon the outer verge, completely to avoid the sand and flame. And after we are come to him, I see a little farther off upon the sand, a people, sitting near the hollow place. Then said to me the master, So that full experience of this round thou bear away, now go and see what their condition is. There let thy conversation be concise, till thou returnest I will speak with him, that he concede to us his stalwart shoulders. Thus farther still upon the outermost head of that 7th circle all alone, I went, where sat the melancholy folk. Out of their eyes was gushing forth their woe. This way, that way, they helped them with their hands, now from the flames and now from the hot soil. Not otherwise in summer with the dogs, now with the foot, now with the muscle, and by fleas and flies and bad dogs they are big. When I had turned my eyes upon the face of the sun, I knew the dolorous fire and fire. Not one of them did, but I perceived that when we met the beach there hung a pouch, which certain colour and thereupon it seems their eyes are feeding. And as I hastened down and come among us, upon a yellow pouch I azure saw. It had the face and posture of a lion. Proceeding then the current to my sight, another of them saw I, red as blood, display a goose more white than butter is. And one, who with an azure sow and graven blazing had his little pouch of white, said unto me, What dost thou in the smote? Now get thee gone, and since thou art still alive, know that a neighbor of mine, Italiano, will have a seat here on my left-hand side. A Paduan and I with these Florentines, full many a time they thunder in my ears, exclaiming, Come, sovereign cavalier! He who shall bring the scepter to 3 goats, then twisted through his mouth, and forth and thrust his tongue like to an ox that licks its noose, and fearing lest my longer stay might vex him who was once very long, backward I turned to send with weary soul. I found my guide, who had already mounted upon the back of that rider, and said to me, Now be both strong and bold. Now descend thy slowly sinking feet. Mount thou in front, for I will be the rear, such as the promise I so high upon thee. Such as he is, who can stand the wind of age with fortune and his name of thee already, trembles all but looking at the shade. Even such became I at those proffered words, which changed which maketh servant strong before good master, which repeated me upon those promises. I wish to say, and yet the voice came not as I believed, so please if thou embrace me. But he, who other times had rested me other peril, soon as I had found him, within his arms delivered me to me. And so, now carry on, bestir thyself, the scope is large and the scope little. Think of the novel bird which thou hast. Even as the little vessel trudged backwards, still backwards, to keep bent to the and when he truly felt himself afloat, there where his breast had been, he turned his tail, and that extended like an eel he moved, and with his paws drew to himself the air. A greater fear I do not think there was, at the time abandoned me to the winds, or by the heavens as still appeared were scorched. Nor when the wretched Icarus his flanks felt stripped of feathers by the melting wax, his father crying, An ill way thou takest! Then was my own, when I perceived myself on all sides in the air, and saw extinguished the sight of everything but of the monster. Onward, turning slowly, slowly, real in the sun, but I could see it only by looking at his face. I heard already on the right voice, making a horrible crash of my wings, as I thrust out my head to hide and down. Then was I still more fearful of the abyss, his high hired beheld, where I trembled all the closer things. I saw then, but before I had not seen, the turning and descending, like great horrors that were approaching upon the earth's sides. As falcon goes long down the wind, who without seeing neither lure nor bird, maketh the falconer say, thee thou stoopest. Descendeth weary, whence he started swiftly, through 100 circles, and delights far from past the stone even as the daring places on the body close to the bases of the rocky rocks, and he is disappointed of our purposes in its very for the protection of the walls, many harder than they might take his strength. Just tucked in and placed himself there, and as about to return to his duty, unto the outer bands of the enemies. So when the precipices burst and cracked, intersected dikes and moats, unto the world of within this place down should the shore. He found us, and the poet held to the left, and I moved on behind. Upon my right hand I beheld new anguish, new torments, and new wilders of the lash, wherewith the foremost Bolgia was replete. Down at the bottom were the sinners naked, this side the middle kingdom facing us, beyond it with us, but with greater steps. Even as the Romans, for the mighty host, the year of Jubilee upon the bridge, have chosen a mode to pass the people over. For all upon one side towards the castle, their faces have and go unto St. Peter's. On the other side they go towards the mountain. This side and that, along the livid stone, beheld I horned demons with great scourges, who cruelly were beating them behind. Ah me, how they did make them lift their legs at the first blows, and sooth not any one the second waited for, nor for the third. While I was going on, mine eyes by one and sounded were, straight I stepped in, already myself. Therefore I stayed my feet to make sure, and moved me to subscribe to my state, which my bones went back and something, and he disgorged me from the heights. Burying his face, but little availed, for said I, thou that castest thy mine eyes, and false upon the creature which thou bearest, thou art then a people captain, but what can I bring thee such blessings? I would have been coward, but forces me not to raise the stone, which make the right I was the one who would bear the soul of my however she was there. Never so bold as there nay, rather it is so bold of them, that not so many comes to lay a pot, which they and if thereof thou wishest pledge or proof, bring to thy mind our avaricious. While speaking in this manner, with his sword to do me smoke, and said, Get thee gone, Amanda, for there are no women here. I joined myself again, and thereafter the footsteps flew, and were a prey. This very reason without my still, what a royal aspect he makes. That is the Tolkien's of the realm. He by the island left me cast a daring hideous left with good relevant hands. There with his cloak on the middle finger, so he deceived his made confer with herself with all blessings. There the beauty such also from the day of the attender of those who had sexualized the sea, and this sufficient to have been knowledge to know we were already where the narrow path crossing our foot the second night, and formed that of a ruckus for another morning. Come on! Next we heard people who are being known in this dojo, snorting with their muzzles, with their tongues and eating them. The margin man pressed me with the air, and exhalation from the air that sticks there, and with the eyes and nostrils lit with war. The bottom is so deep, no place in us to get a sight of it, without ascending the arches back where most the crag impends. Thither we came, and thence down in the moat I saw a people smothered in a filth that out of human privies seemed to flow. And whilst below there with mine eye I searched, I saw one with his head so foul with ordure, it was not clear if he were clerk or layman. He screamed to me, Wherefore art thou so eager to look at me more than the other foul ones? And I to him, Because, if I remember, I have already seen thee with dry hair, and thou art Alessio Interminier of Lucca, therefore I eye thee more than all the others. And he, thereon, belabouring his punto, The flatteries have submerged me here below, wherewith my tongue was never surfeited. Then said to me the guide, See that thou thrust thy visage somewhere farther in advance, that with thine eyes thou well the face attain of that uncleanly and dishevelled drab, who there doth scratch herself with filthy nails, and crouches there, now on her is standing. That's the harlot, is it, who replied unto her paramour when he said, Have I great gratitude for thee? Nay, thou O forlorn disciples, ye who the things of God were taught to you by the holiness when speaking so now is the years for his attention practices, because of the true Lord is your life. We had already followed the human sense that in the heart, and the whole remote itself. Wisdom supreme, and how great are the those that cover the earth and in the Lord, and with what rest Melissa sealed all my prophecies. Out of the mouth of each one, the feet of a transgressor, there was a little gap, the rest were different. In all of them the souls were woven in fire, therefore the joints were violent and progress, they would have snapped asunder wood and bone. Even as the flame of each was extinguished and moving on the outer surface, so likewise was it was in the Master, who is that one who robbed me? Better than his other comrades who were and whom the dead thou wilt have me buried down there in the damage from whom thou wilt be buried. And I, what pleases thee, me is pleasing. Thou art my Lord, and knowest that I depart forth from thy desire, and knowest what is not spoken. Straightway upon the fourth bed we arrived. We turned, and on the left-hand side descended down into the bottom, full of holes and wounds, and the good master yet from off his haunch deposed me not until to the hole he brought me, of him who so lamented with his shanks. Whoe'er thou art that standest upside down, O doleful soul, implanted like a stake, to say it even now, thou canst speak out. I stood with his confessing the false assassin who, in his fixed, to the death of the cried out, dost thou stand there already? Dost thou stand there already, Don Pache? How many years have I been life? Art thou so early to report to myself? For which thou didst not hear the beautiful women of her love? Such I became, which are not comprehended with his answer. Then said the Julius, Satan is very well, he is deceived. I am not sick of goodness, and I replied as with encouragement. Whereas the spirit of the Lord was then suddenly with a voice of lamentation said to me, then what wantest thou of me? We have learned that you are so much to know, that thou on that account hast prospered well. Know that I vested this with a great peace, and truly was I so eager to advance the steps, that was above and here myself I profited. Beneath my head the others were dragged down, who have preceded me in symmetry, flattened along the fissure of the rock. Below there I shall likewise fall, whenever that one shall come who I believe thou wouldst, what time the seven heavens are closed. But longer I my feet already post, and here have been in his way upside down, then he will plant and stay with red feet. For after him shall come with valley, and towards the west a castle without wall, such as the 6 republics in a ring. You this and as his king is blind, so do we as his plans for their position. I do not know how we do this word, but we have only his beauty. I pray thee, now, how great a treasure art thou remembered of so much, and for the truly, nothing else but following. Nor Peter nor the rest asked him to carry silver or gold, and he by lot was chosen to the place the guilty soul had lost. Therefore stay here, for thou art justly punished, and keep safeguard over the ill-gotten money, which caused thee to be valiant against gods. And will it not instead convey to thee the reverence for the king's superlative, thou hadst been speaking of gods and life? I would make you towards me a little bit still, because your avarice is taking the Lord, trampling the good, and living the good word. The abandoned is not past the mountains, and she considers the waters and points to it. The same in which the seven heads of the throne, and power, and strength, ye have made yourselves a god of gold and silver, and from the idolater are differently there are two ones. How much gold is never not thy conversion, but that marriage dower which the first wealthy father took from me. And while I sang to him such notes as these, either that anger or that conscience stung him, he struggled violently with both his feet. I think in sooth that it might either please with such contented lips as this endeavour unto the sounding of the words and tasks. Therefore, with both his hands picking up, and when he was out on his breast, mounted by the way of his arms, nor did he tarry at my prosperity, or by the king's son of the earth, from the very best of the earth. There tenderly for me nobody but he had not from chin to the beginning of the chest. For towards the reins the countenance was turned, and backward it behooved them to advance, as to look forward had been taken from them. Perchance indeed by violence of palsy, some one has been thus wholly turned awry, but I ne'er saw it, nor believed it to be. As God may let thee, reader, gather fruit from this thy reading, think now for thyself, how I could ever keep my face unmoistened. When our own image near me I beheld, distorted so the weeping of the eyes, along the fissure bathed the hinder parts. Truly I wept, leaning upon a peak of the hard crag, so that my escort said to me, Art thou, too, of the other fools? Here pity lives when it is wholly dead. Who is a greater reprobate than he, who feels compassion at the doom divine? Lift up thy head, and see for whom opened the earth before the Thebans' eyes. Wherefore they all cried, Whither rushest thou? Amphiaraus? Why dost leave the war? And downward ceased he not to fall amain, as far as Minos, who lays a hold on all. See, he has made a bosom of his shoulders, because he wished to see too far before him. Behind he looks, and backward goes his way. Behold Tiresias, who his semblance changed, when from a male a female he became, his members being all of them transformed, and afterwards was forced to strike once more the two entangled serpents with his rod, ere he could have again his manly plumes. That Aruns is, who backs the other's belly, who in the hills of Luni, where there gropes the Carorese who houses underneath. Among the marbles white a cavern had for his abode, whence to behold the stars, and see, the view was not cut off from him. And she there, who is covering up her breasts, which thou beholdest not in the surfaces, and on that side has all the hairy skin, was Manto, who made quest through many lands, afterwards told there where I was born, whereof I was the least to be. After her father and her the city of Athens had been enslaved, she was not a king a god of land in the and the foot split to show her grace and the spirit by a fire of the water and dark water, with water that grows stagnant. Good way in places where the teaching of system and the affection of the very name of the cities sits the air, both the sky and stretch, to part the Brescians and the Bergamans. Go down the said to me, while whatever street you've done goes a river down the down pasture. Soon as the water runs through the drum, no more than there is a pond, but Mutuo, far as the Verna, where it falls in pay. It's not far it runs to the pond, to which it plays that makes it long, and off to the sunrise. The passage is there is no middle of the ground, until it makes it. There it is they now see Jesus is going to stay, for arched castles and hills, and the then thereafter he was scattered round, collected in the first, he was strong for the they brought their cities in dead bands, and after her, the first place selected, Montreal without hope. Its people once were being one sided, by the stupidity of Cavalier, but he did not want to see the sea. Therefore I fashioned a people and carried out skills to bring all my city government. They also was very good at once. My master, by two persons I became so certain, and so taken my faith, that unto this arrest will be expected there. But tell me of the people who are passing, if any one noteworthy thou beholdest, for only unto that my mind reverts. Then said he to me, he who from the cheek thrust out his beard upon his swarthy shoulders was, at the time when Greece was void of males, so that there scarce remained one in the cradle, an augur, and we Chalcons gave the moment in Aulius, when to sever the first cable. Eriphilus his name was, and so sings my lofty tragedy in some part or other. That knowest thou well, who knowest the whole of it. And yet, who is so slender at once, who will go buried in magical reason. Behold Guido Bonanza, behold his venture, who now and then in the face of red, will turn his steps, but he can go on. Behold the very things that are And yesterday, thou shouldst remember well it did not this is a legal document. All legal documents for more information, please visit
Divine Comedy by Raphael Diego, translated by Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, 1921. Bridge to bridge passed on beyond the bridge's head, and as upon the sixth bank he arrived, need was for him to have a steadfast front. With the same fury and the same uproar as dogs leap out upon a mendicant, who on a sudden begs where he stops, they issued from beneath the bridge, and turned against him all their grappling irons. But he cried out, "Be none of you malignant. Before those hooks of yours lay hold of me, let one of you step forward, and hear me, and then take counsel as to grappling me." They all cried out, "Let Malakota go," whereat one started, and the rest stood still. And he came to him, saying, "What avails it?" "Thinkest thou, Malakota, to behold me advanced into this place?" my master said, "safe hitherto from all your skill of fence, without the will divine and fate auspicious? Let me go on, for it in heaven is willed that I another show this savage road." Then was his arrogance so humbled in him, that he let fall his grapple at his feet, and to the other said, "Strike or not." And unto me, my guide, "O thou who sittest among the splinters of the bridge crouched down, securely now return to me again." Wherefore I started and came swiftly to him, and all the send in that direction some of mine, as he that doth err himself, go ye with me, step my master, he turned round his head. Ask him again, he said, if more thou wish to know from him, before someone destroy him. The guide. Now tell then of the other culprits. Knowest thou anyone who is a relation under the pitch? And he. I separated lately from one who is a neighbor to me. Would that I still were covered up with him. I should be we have mourned too much. With his grapple seized him by the arm.
So that by rending he tore on the table, Ike, Dragignazzo, wished to pounce upon him.
Commenced their fury turned round and round about the floor. When they again somewhat were pacified, who still was looking at his room, demanded my conductor without stay.
Thou sayest thou hast made to control, and he replied, it was Friar Domingo.
desirous the others should escape. The barrier disappeared.
Silent and low. When one in front, the other out, I rolled the line of fires. On the table for no spoken word. For Mo and Isa are not more like that's the injury and scoff so great that much of them annoy them. If anger be engrafted on ill will, they will come after it. I felt my hair stand all on end already with terror. We have to know. So that's both. The event was like next slow, but we to the next Volvia can be sent. Shall we? Not yet. Tired and vanquished. They had bent the hoods low down
before their eyes, and fashioned of the cut that in Cologne they for the monks. Without they gilded are so that it dazzles, but inwardly all leaden and so heavy that Frederick used to put them on of straw. O everlastingly fatiguing mantle, again returned, still to the right along with the intent of their sad night, but owing to the weight of the very folk came on so tardily. Whence I unto my leader, see thou find some indeed or Vino, and thus inquire without my avowal. One who understood the Tuscan speech cried to us from behind, Stay your feet, ye who so runneth forth the dusky air. Perhaps thou'lt have for me what thou demandest. Whereat the leader turned him and said, Wait, and then according to his pace proceed. I stopped, and to beheld I show great haste of spirit in their faces to be with me, but the burden in the narrow way delayed them. When they came up, along with an eye scan, Oh, friars, began I, you're in. When making some right. And meditates, for I it seems that he provides beforehand. So upward lifting me towards the summit of a huge rock, he scanned another crag, saying, "That try first if it is such that." This was no way for one for hardly weak when I pushed up, ready to ascend from jag to jag, and had it not been that upon passing short as the but because Malabulja towards the mouth of the profoundest well is all inclined, the structure is down. One bank rises and the other sinks. Still we arrived at length upon the point wherefrom the last stone breaks itself asunder. The breath was from my lungs so milked away when I was up that thus to put off sloth, my master said, for sitting not to fame. Without which whoso his life consumes, such vestige leaveth of himself on earth, as smoke in air, or water foam. And therefore raise who overcometh anguish with spirit that overcometh every battle, if with its heavy body it sink not. A longer stairway it behoves thee mount, 'tis not enough from these to have departed. Let it avail thee, if thou understand me. Then I uprose, showing myself provided better with breath than I did feel myself, and said, "Go on, for I am strong and bold." Upward we took our way along the crag, which jagged was, and narrow, and difficult, and more precipitous far than that before. Speaking I went, not to appear exhausted, whereat a voice from the next boat came forth, not well adapted to articulate words. I know not what it said, though o'er the back now was of the arch that passes there, but he seemed moved to anger who was speaking. I was bent downward, but my living eyes could not attain the bottom for the dart, wherefore I, Master, see that thou arrive at the next round, and let us descend the wall. For as from hence I hear and understand not, so I look down, and nothing I distinguish. Other response, he said, I make thee not, except the doing, for the modest asking ought to be followed by the deed in silence. We from the bridge descended at its head, where it connects itself with the 8th bank, and then was manifest to me the Bolgia, and I beheld therein a terrible throng of serpents, and of such a monstrous kind that the resemblance still congeals my blood. Let Libya boast no longer with her sin, for if Chilidri, Chiculi, and Phere she breeds, with Chenkri and with Amphisbaena, neither so many plagues nor so malignant e'er showed me with all Ethiopia, nor with whatever the Red Sea is. Among this cruel and most dismal throng, people were running naked and affrighted, without the hope of hole or heliotrope. They had their hands with serpents bound behind them, these riveted upon their reins the tail and head, and were in front of them entwined. And lo, at one who was upon our side, there darted forth a serpent which transfixed him, there where the neck is knotted to the shoulders. Nor whoso nor I was written, as he took fire and burned, and ashes wholly behoved him there. And when he was thus destroyed, the ashes grew together, and of themselves into himself they instantly returned. Even thus by the great sages 'tis confessed, the phoenix dies, and then is born again, when it approaches its 500th year. Only the tears of incense and and as he is who falls, knows not how, by force of demons who to earth downright, or other obligation. When he rises and round him looks, bleeding by the mighty anguish which he has suffered, and in looking sighs, such was that sinner after he had risen. Justice of God, oh how severe it is, that blows like these and vengeance poureth down. The guide thereafter asked him who he was, whence he replied, I reigned from Tuscany a short time since into this cruel order. Bestial life is not a human race me, even as the mule I raise, fond me from cheap beast, the stoic was one worthy den. And I unto the guide, tell him to stir. Ask what the sinner who had heard dissembled not, but unto me directed mind and faced, and with a melancholy shame was painted. Then said, it pains me more that thou hast caused me amid this misery thou seest me, than when I were in my was taken. What thou demandest I cannot deny, so low am I put down because I love the sacrist the fair ones, and falsely once was laid upon another. But thou mayest also the story of first
round his arms another, and rebounded, clinching himself together so but with them he could not help saying, Historia, why resolve not to burn yourself in ashes? No doing, thou thy seed through all the sombre circles of this hell, the spirit has crossed the cloud, not these thou again. He fled away and spake no further word, and I beheld his ankles, where is this author? I do not think Maremma has so many serpents as he had all along his back, as far as where the begins. upon the shoulders and behind the knee, with wings wide open with the dragonfly, and he sets fire to nor I was aware, nor master, until what time they shouted, "Who are you?" On which account our story made a halt, and then we were intent on them alone. I did not know them, but it came to pass, as it is wont to happen by some chance, that one to name the other was compelled, exclaiming, thrust its teeth through one cheek and the other, the hindermost stretched upon his thighs, and through it on the reins outspread. Ivy was never fastened by its barbs into the trees, so this horrible reptile upon the other's limbs entwined. Then they stuck close as if of heated wax. They had been made to intermix their colors, nor one but even as the other when there appeared to us that never yet were seen. Every original aspect there was cancelled too, and yet none did the perverted image appear, and such departed with slow pace, even as a lizard under the great scourge of days canicular, exchanging hedge, lighting appeareth, if the road it cross. Thus did appear come towards the bellies of the two others a small fiery serpent, livid and black, as though a peppercorn, and in that part whereat is first received our ailment, it one of them transfixed.
This may be fun. This may be fun. Yeah. This may be fun.
The other
Now I'm a little motivated.
saw the other
You're not worthy as my opponent.
as much as those contracted were. Thereafter the hind feet together twisted became the member that a man conceals, and of his own the wretched created, while both of them relation fails color, and engenders hair on one of them, and depilates the other. The one uprose and down gently fell through eternity, not away their highest lamps, underneath which each one is most changed. He who is standing further towards the windows, assessing that shooting years from the hollow cheek. What did no factor run, and what retained but success? The lips thickened far as was befitting. He who lay prostrate lost his living form of backward trust. He used its head in the same manner as the snail its horns. And so the tongue, which was entire and apt for speech before, is cleft, and the bifork in the other closes up in the smoke season. The soul, which was reptile, had been changed. Along the valley hissing takes the light, and after him the other species fell. Then did he turn upon him his knee shoulders and say to the other, I'll have Tuoso run, crawling bed on along his road. In this way I beheld the seven valleys. And notwithstanding that mine eyes might be somewhat bewildered and my mind dismayed, they could not flee away so secretly. But that I plainly saw Puccio Giancato, and he was
Rejoice, O Florence, since thou art so great that over sea and land thou beatest thy wings, and throughout hell thy name is spread abroad. Among the thieves 5 citizens of thine, like these I found, whence shame comes unto me, and thou thereby to no great honor risest. But if when morn is near our dreams are true, feel shalt thou in a little time from now what Plato, if none other, prays for thee. And if it now were, it were not would that it were a thing that needs must be, or twill it be As many as the hind, who on the hill rests at the time when he who lights the world his countenance keeps least concealed, while as the fly gives birth, he seeth the glowworm down along the line, and there were the cloud face. With flames of manifold resplendent, all was the effulgent, as I grew aware as soon as I was with again. And such as he who with the bears of energy beheld Elijah's chariot departing, what time distance had of way. For with his eyes if I had my master, I replied, by hearing thee I am more assured, but I surmised already it might be so, and already wished to ask, who is within that fire which comes so cleft and taut? It seems uprising from the pyre where was Eteocles with his brother Christ. He answered me, within there are tormented Ulysses and Diomed, and thus together they unto them run as unto them.
Come
There
on!
within their flame wherein is no sparks possessing power. Thou hearest but with desire.
Come on!
Therefore,
Come on!
O ye who are twofold within one fire, if I deserved of you while I was living, if I deserved of you for much or little when in the word
Come on,
I wrote
man.
the law, one of the then it began to thereafter, the summit come on,
Come and get it!
nor the due affection which Dorius should have made for us, should overcome within me the desire I had to be experienced of the world and of the vice and virtue of mankind. But I put forth on the high open sea with one sole ship, and that small company by which I never had deserted them. Both Come and get me! The Isle of Sardis and the others that I met rounded us. I and my company were old and slow, when at that narrow passage we arrived, set as signals, that man no further onward should adventure. On the right hand behind me I left Seville, and on the other already I had left Ceuta.
Why isn't this working?
Oh, brothers,
Is there something
who
missing?
100,000
Must more blood be shed?
have come unto the west, to this so
Now I'm motivated. You will not forget this devil's power. For these fireflies. Come and get now.
The fourth time to make a turn flip. The prow down already now the party comes. Yet another with
Rest in peace.
still it appeared because I come perchance in the plate to stay and speak with me, let it not over. Thou seest it irks not me, and I am burning. If thou but lately into this blind world hast fallen down to that sweet mansion, wherefrom I bring the whole of my transgression, say if there that of which the sapwood bears the flank, even as it lies between the plain and mountain, lives between tyranny and a free state. Now I entreat thee, tell us who thou art. Be not more stubborn than the rest have been, so that thy name hold front there in the world. After the fire a little more had roared in its own fashion, the sharp point it moved this way and that, and then gave forth such breath. I believe that that which before had pleased, then displeased me. Penitent, confessing, I surrendered. Ah, woe is me! The leader of the modern Pharisees having lived and not with Saracens nor with the Jews, for each one of his enemies was Christian. None of them had been to conquer Abraham, nor merchandising in the Sultan's land, nor the high office, nor the sacred orders, regarded, nor in me that cord which used to make those good within more medium. But even as Constantine sought out Sylvester to hear his letters, so this one sought in his pride. Counsel he asked of me, and I was silent because his words appeared inebriate. And then he said, Be not thy heart afraid, henceforth I thee absolve, and thou instruct me how to raise Palestrina to the ground. Heaven have I power to lock and to unlock, as thou dost know. Therefore the keys are two, the which my predecessor held not dear. Then urged me on his weighty arguments there, where my silence was the worst advice. And said I, Father, since thou washest me of that sin into which I now must fall, the promise long with the fulfillment short will make thee triumph in the lofty seat. Francis came afterward when I was dead for me, but one of the black cherubim said to him, Take him not, do me no wrong. He must come down among my servitors because he gave the fraudulent advice from which time forth I have been at his hair. For who repents not cannot be absolved, nor can one both repent and will at once, because of the contradiction.
Come on, Imp.
Oh, miserable me, how I did shudder when he seized on me, saying, Peradventure thou didst not think that I was a logician. He bore me into Minos, who entwined 8 times his tail about his stubborn back, and after he had bitten it in great rage, said, Of the thievish fire a culprit this. Wherefore, here where thou seest I am lost, and vested thus in going I bemoan me. When it had thus completed its recital, the flame departed, uttering lamentations, writhing and flapping its sharp-pointed horn. Onward we passed, I and my friend, up o'er the crag above another arch, which the moat covers, where is paid the fee by those who, selling the whoever would
This may be fun. You will not forget this devil's power. Worthy is my opponents. Now I'm motivated. Now I'm motivated. Now I'm motivated. Now I'm motivated. Rest in peace. This may be fun.
Shortly see the sun, so with provision, that the whole stress of snow may give the victory to the Novarese. Otherwise, after 1 foot to go away, this word is compensated, then to depart upward. Another one who had his throat pierced through, and nose cut off, close, no longer staying to look in wonder with the others before the others could his joy, which outwardly was red,